Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Dino podcast. Today we have another special guest, Kharay Kenyatta. Kharay is going to talk to us about his entrepreneurial journey, building a successful side business while working full time on Wall Street. Now, Kharay is an old friend from business school. We got our MBA together at the University of Chicago booth. And today he is a wealth manager at Goldman Sachs. So Kharay has a demanding full-time job. And in addition to that, has been able to build up this very successful side business, one that I am personally a big fan of myself. Kharay will talk to us all about how he was able to pull that off and what it means for him. As a programming note, please follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. And it really helps the show's visibility if you follow and rate the show on those platforms. Lastly, if you enjoy the conversation, the best compliment you can give the show is recommending it and sharing the link with a friend who you think will enjoy it as well. But without further ado, let's dive in with a conversation with our guest, Kharay Kenyatta. Kharay, welcome to the show, buddy.
Dino, thanks for having me on. I've been following along and excited to be a part of it.
That means a lot. Great. Let's start with your day job, or your day job on Wall Street. What do you do at Goldman Sachs in the wealth management division?
Officially, my title is a private wealth advisor. So we advise wealthy families, typically with a minimum liquid asset size of $10 million on a range of financial matters. So think from investing, which you probably would think of right away, to estate planning, to philanthropy, to even looking at the other side of the balance sheet and borrowing money. So just their full holistic, financial health. But, how I make money and how we make money here at Goldman is by charging fees on those liquid assets and advising those families who have had, I always say our clients have had a home run in some capacity. It's our jobs to think about risk management and get singles and doubles. That we don't have to hit a home run anymore. How do we preserve that capital, help it grow over time, and help it pass to the next generation in a tax-efficient manner?
Amazing. All right, well, I'm not at the $10 million mark yet myself, Kharay. But on that note, listeners, there's also a Patreon for the podcast. So if you'd like to become a paid member and help me get to the point where I can qualify to be a client of Kharay's, please subscribe to the Patreon.
That's funny. No, it's funny. I have to turn clients away sometimes, and I'm like, I'm not at $1 million. I'm not at half, so sorry I have to turn you away, but it's just an institutional, so. And being from the inner city of Philly, sometimes these numbers just seem extreme to me anyway. But yeah, that's the world I'm dealing with now. So
hey, you me both. Oh man. Well, Kharay, I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but I interned at Goldman Sachs way back in the day before the financial crisis of 0809. And one thing that somebody told me at the firm that still stuck with me to this day was they said, here we like to recruit really incredible people, and the fact that you work at Goldman should be the least interesting thing about you.
Yeah.
With that in mind and that spirit, can we talk about this side business that you've built while working at Goldman? So you've built a side business running networking and events firm called Kharay's Cocktails and Connections. How did that start?
Right. No, happy to talk through it. And some people think, it started officially when I moved to New York after spending, 10 years in Chicago. But unofficially, I've always been thought that I've have had a chance to be in so many different circles that are differentiated than most people. Most people aren't from blue collar upbringing in Philly and now sit at Goldman Sachs, and then went to an all black top school at Howard, and then worked at LaSalle Bank. And then, so when you start to name all these 7 or 8 different spaces I'm in, I've always just enjoyed choosing my favorite people from all of those different places and bringing them together, whether it's for a flag football game, whether it's a quarterly man dinner that I used to do in Chicago, or whether it's running the social club at University of Chicago, where you and I, went to business school. So my thing has always been, and not in an altruistic way, not even in a business way, but like if Dino's cool, he should meet my friend from Philly, Coloma, who's also cool. They both have similar interests. Let's just put them all in the same room in an organic way and see what happens. So I've always been that way. I remember and also from a business perspective, I've always been. I remember when I was 21, I asked some of the senior leaders at my corporate bank, "How did you? It seems so hard to bring in business. How do you do it? You just brought in a new $50 million loan," and they're like, "It's all about relationships. So whether it's the attorneys that I've known for 10 years, whether it's the trust and estate attorneys, whether it's the accountants, I've built these relationships with them, and we refer each other business." I said, "Wow, that's fascinating." So I went to my boss's boss's boss, who was a black woman that ran a huge division at LaSalle Bank, which is now Bank of America. Um, and I told her the idea. I said, "Look, I'm 21, blue collar upbringing, not exposed to all these different industries. What if I use $300 to $400 a month and kind of started taking people out and getting to know what they do and telling them who I am? Because when I get older, I want to be able to bring in business." And she said, "This is fascinating. No 21-year-old has ever asked me to use his corporate card to take, potential long-term, intermediaries out. You should go ahead and do it. Fascinating idea." Anyway, so I did that for a long time. Built a nice network in Chicago. And the impetus of True Cocktails and Connections was when I moved to New York. I was leaving behind thousands of relationships that I've built over 10 years. LaSalle Bank, Level X Consulting, Bank of America, University of Chicago. Spent 10 years, 21 to 31 in Chicago. How do I replicate that as quickly as I can to grow this private wealth business in New York? So I came up with an event called First Fridays. It used to be called First Fridays, and Dino was a early member, but it was like the 50 people that I knew in New York. "Hey, 50 people, I'm hosting this thing in my apartment, first Friday of every month. Stop by, have a drink, bring a bottle. I'll have snacks." Goldman was supporting it. They liked what I was doing. And that event in my apartment grew from 10 people to 50 people in my apartment. People were wearing name tags. People were bringing, it was just a mix of people from partners at Goldman to people from business school like Dino to all different types of people. But business started coming in through that. Slowly but surely, family members coming. And then, as I moved it out, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but I had to move it outside my apartment. 50 people was a lot for a small little loft at one bedroom in the West Village. 60 people showed up. I moved it out. Yoga studios, art studios, all different types of space I can get my hands on for $1,000 for 4 hours or so. And that's what it's culminated to. Now, at the end of the day, the last one that I did was May 2nd. It's 315 people now, sponsored by the largest liquor company in the world in Diageo and their diversity initiative in Pronghorn. Live band. My mom still cooks all the foods and bring it up from Philly. But it went from 10 people in my apartment basically to 315 people, and that's it. I don't combine with any other groups. I can meet you at business school, on a plane, at Goldman, anywhere I meet that I think you're on vacation, Lake Como, Italy. I don't care where I meet you. If I think you're a fascinating person and would add value to this cohort of people, I add your email address, and it keeps organically growing from there. So that's kind of the story. Happy to dive into specifics of it, but again, it was just altruistically bringing people together. 2, business, me being the center of influence, and 3, now there's a charity component, but we'll dive into that. But those are the 3 reasons why I do the event.
That's wonderful. And to see it grow from early on, 10, 20 people in your apartment to now. I mean, I was at that May event that you just hosted.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was huge. Sponsors, 300 plus people. As we talk through this, like we'll put up some visuals for the video audience that happens to be watching along, just to get a sense of how big this has grown.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll note is, I really admire how you've played to your strengths in connecting people. And I remember back in business school, one of the things I really appreciated about you was you were a social butterfly. You did have a tendency to bring people together without any official business or
Yeah.
events. When we'd go out for Thursday nights, we would get together at Coray's apartment. It was just what you did,
Yeah.
and you've kind of like turned that strength into building a community and a business, which I really admire.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I've attended for a long time, and I have to say, like, another thing I absolutely love about Coray's Cocktails and Connections is just the people at the events. How would you describe the community that you bring together through this
It's
business?
it's an eclectic group of people because I mean, if you do the breakdown just on the true breakdown of industries that they're in, it's 26% finance, 10% law, 10% tech, 10% entrepreneurs, 7% sports, 5% arts. You can start breaking it down into who attends the event. But like I just mentioned, it can be the janitor at my job at Goldman Sachs. It could be my barber. It can be a girl that I met at the club 2 weeks ago. It can be like anybody that I deem to be aspirational and want to grow and can add value in some way to the event. I invite them. So I'm pretty selective about. Now it says anybody, but I'm also good at kind of understanding who people are and making sure there's good people in the room at all times. So yeah, that's how I would describe the mix. It's a big mix, obviously heavy finance, 26%, and 10% law, 10% tech. So that's almost 50% right there. So very professional crew. But again, family members, nieces. My nephew was there last week, last May 2nd. He's 20 years old, freshman, just turned 20, freshman at in college here at Rowan. He has 4 internships lined up from the event with physical therapists. He was able to find in the crowd, based on the color-coded name tags, who was in the physical therapy field, and now he has 4 internships lined up for the and successive summer. So that's a small thing. I mean, it's a big thing to him, but in terms of monetary value, not huge. But then there's also on the flip side of that, partners at Goldman and partners at Blackstone who are coming and businesses getting done, or you're sitting on each other's boards, or people are getting married. I mean, a lot of things happen within those 4 walls and with those 315 people joining. So that's how I would describe it. It's a hodgepodge of different people, from firefighters to my mom who didn't graduate from college, all the way to the people in the highest levels of finance on Wall Street. And I enjoy that. It's very organic. It feels that way. Everybody's having a good time, and I enjoy when I'm looking out and I see that partner talking to the firefighter. Who knows what they're talking about? But you know what? Like, it's Kharay in the middle of it. They're getting along, and I don't want it to be all stiff private equity or something like that. I like it when it's just kind of the mix of everyone. So.
Well, it's an amazing group of people. Like I can speak from personal experience. Like I've made some great professional connections there, some friends, even got 1 or 2 dates out of the events. So if you're looking to network in New York City, check out Kharay's Cocktails.
Yeah. No, it's a phenomenal network. And I don't like I hate tooting my. Look, I've been to a lot of networking events, and they're a little stiff. Mine is, I always say I wish I wasn't the curator and the creator of mine. I wish I walked into my networking event not knowing the 315 people there, because from the jerk chicken we're serving to the live band to the, people like Dino and other classmates or colleagues who are in the room. It's pretty impressive. So we'll have to get these people who are listening to the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kharay, another thing I really appreciate about your events is that it is a family affair in some ways.
Yep.
It's big now. It has sponsors, but just this past May, your mom was still handing out food.
Yeah.
Your cousin's still helping register people at the
Yeah.
door, handing out
Yeah.
name tags. How has family supported you from the start with Cocktails and Connections?
Yeah, well, partly it's just expensive to do this, so it's cheap labor for my family to be there. So it's a little bit of that. My mom retired about 8 years ago, which was a year before I started this event. And when I told her, she knew what I was hosting in my apartment. When I told her to come up for the first time, because it moved outside of my apartment, She was like, "What is this thing, and why are you spending $1,000 every time you do it? This doesn't make sense." My uncle would say the same thing. You're spending a lot of money on these events. Are you seeing the returns? Like, who throws puts $1,000 into something? Nobody's paying anything. You're footing the bill. So my mom was really the first family member to not attend the event because my brothers had attended and cousins, but she was the first one. She's been at every single event since June of 2017, since it moved outside of my apartment. And I tell her all the time, although she's not a sophisticated investor, she's not on Wall Street, she is. She helps. I call her my chief operating officer. When I said she was my COO, she's like, "What the hell is a COO? I don't know what that is." I said, "Mom, you're my chief operating officer of Kharay's Cocktails and Connection." Now her name tag says that if you ever see it. But but no. So she's a big part of, in the beginning, everything from making sure we had the ice and the cups to signing people in to trash cans to she's always in my ear during the event, letting me know what's going on at the event. And now she's kind of drifted to not being the one that's running all around, but she enjoys cooking and serving the food. And at first I was like, "Mom, I just need you to run around. Tell me if we need more trash cans. Tell me if we need more ice. Tell me I need that person, like my chief of staff." But she likes serving the food. And by the way, she gets to talk to all 315 people at the event by being there. I just realized that a couple weeks ago. Now my nieces and nephews have served different purposes. They've been a part of the front door crew, signing people in. I'll give them like $50 for a couple hours. They're excited about that. My brother will help serve the food. So it's all help set up. So look, from setup to front door to food to everything. The family really helps out. I would say at each event I have 10 people who are working or volunteering, and of that, over half of them are family members. It's 5 or 6 at every event, and I wouldn't be able to do it, without their support. So, or it would be a lot more expensive without their support. But I enjoy that they're a part of the growth, and they're starting to see the clients and the professional athletes and like all these people. They're like, wow, Kharay talked about that prospect 3 years ago. Now he's sitting in the room with us, or he talked about that particular prospect, and they're here. So for them to see the growth and see, hey, look, I put $50,000-$60,000 behind this thing personally too. When Goldman stopped supporting it, when it moved outside of my apartment for compliance and for different reasons, but I think we're starting to see the payback. The seeds have been planted, and we're seeing kind of money flowing in from a private wealth perspective. And I'm happy that my family is starting to. They were invested in it from a time and people perspective, but they're starting to see the benefits of me and the family on the from all the work that we put in. So.
Well, look, I think the family involvement gives it a special touch, a special warmth, and it just adds to the whole experience for all of us there at the events.
And that's true. I would say that I didn't mention that, but people are always excited to be my mom. And look, a big part of why I do the event is for, professional reasons, for commercial reasons. I'm trying to bring in money. Like, I am a wealth advisor. I only get paid when more money flows into Goldman. But what it does, it does provide that touch where it's like, oh, this is a family affair, and it just makes people feel like it's more of an altruistic thing versus a wealth advisor looking for cash. Even though me being the center of influence is a big part of why I do it, but it definitely gives it a much more family feeling than it's just me hosting an event trying to get cash out of clients. So so yeah.
But before this whole thing and before your professional career, what role did family play in your life and your upbringing into shaping you to the man you are today?
No, it's a big part. People ask all the time. And my two parents, my dad drove a taxi. Grew up in Philly. Three older brothers. My dad, drove a taxi for 25 years. My mom was at your local grocery store for 35, 38. So we were a very blue collar family. Limited. My father went to school for a couple of years, didn't finish, off and on. So limited education at my parents' level. But my dad read every book in the world. Like, literally, when he passed away in 2011, we went back, we looked at his bookshelf, and it was literally, when I'm struggling with statistics in business school, I'm like, why was Dad reading a statistics book? Why was he reading the Torah? Why was he reading the Quran? Like, why was he reading about like all this stuff, And he would push that knowledge onto us and never make us read what he was reading, but he would, like, if he was driving a taxi, he would say, "Hey, by the time I get home, I'm going to be gone for 12 hours. I need you to have an article. All four of you have an article read out of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it can't be sports." So I would read something about Merck, Merck, the pharmaceutical company, doing something in East Africa, like blah blah blah. So we have to give these like little reports to him. So that side of it was my dad. My mom, sweetest woman ever, very protective, very customer service, very people friendly centric. She spent 38 years at a grocery store. So between those two, driving a taxi, and both of them having this people centric mindset, we were able to get a full balance. And in my neighborhood, people thought we were Huxtables. Like, I know that's not a good thing now with Bill Cosby and everything, but they literally thought growing up in my neighborhood, because we had a two-parent household and we were not on welfare, and my dad was so smart, and my mom was a team mom on the football team, it was like, this is a great family. So I put a lot into, my upbringing, and there were problems in the family. I'm not going to act like it was all like 100% peachy creamy, but having that balance, that mental balance of mom and dad, and the support of them being at almost every game, I mean, really allowed me and my brothers to really thrive. And even to this day, my dad's not around. My mom doesn't know about all the things that I do on a day to day. She doesn't know about a big meeting today with $100 million, but you could hear them in your ear, kind of, even though they haven't been through the same situations. Some of the lessons and values that they've instilled in us, comes through day to day. And then my three older brothers, I watched them go through their trials and tribulation. My 49-year-old brother was the first one to graduate from college ever in the history of our family. So to see that's what I was striving. My brother right above me was all city football and track, the hardest worker I know, run hills in the morning at 12 years old. And my other brother is a EMT slash firefighter slash paramedic. And he's always been, kind of he wanted to be a doctor, but he didn't want to do the full schooling. But he's very helpful and very giving. So when you think about the parents makeup, and then my three older brothers, they really, really helped me, kind of be who I am today.
Man, Mama Kenyatta, if you're listening, you did a great job. And please subscribe to the Dino podcast, Mama.
Yeah.
But seriously, the whole family must be enormously proud of you, Kharay. And this is one of the things I personally appreciate about your background. I had a somewhat different, but I'd say like still pretty blue collar experience growing up in Queens as a refugee of the Bosnian War, raised by a single mom. And, I know that experience wasn't easy. So I just love to see stories like your own of growing up in not the easiest, most privileged background, and really making something of yourself and the role that your family played along the way. I mean, I think it's just, it's a beautiful story, and your mom must be very, very proud.
Yeah, she is. And shout out to I have a half brother and sister too, who was supportive of the events as well, Kamau and Damali. So didn't want to leave them out. I just, where I grew up, it was just three older brothers, so I kind of said my immediate family, but they're just as supportive and all that good stuff too. But no, it's, it's different. It's a different upbringing, and maybe it makes me as driven as I am to kind of change the trajectory of the family and be that person to do it. But my brothers are doing it as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, it makes me who I am. Sometimes, if you grew up with it already, you don't have the same drive, or, you can't get through certain circumstances because you're not used to going through trials and tribulations. Now, there were times in my analyst class where people were like crying because they have this deadline. And I'm like, my friend, like, I have 11 friends and family members shot and killed. Okay. I'm not saying it like that. I don't even have to put it on the podcast, but it's like, if you're worried about this deadline on Friday, like, I am like, cool. Like, if that's all we have to worry about, I'm good, So
it's okay. Yeah.
I know that was pretty extreme, but that's just like, I think sometimes growing up, where we grew up, it just makes you a little tougher, and you can, navigate through a lot of different things. Whereas if things were handed to you, then you grew up in a different environment, which is my kids will, but it does make you have this iron shield where you can kind of get through a lot of things. So
100%.
Yeah.
It builds perspective, and it builds resilience,
exactly.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Circling back to cocktails and connections, I guess, what motivates you to do it today and to keep growing it to the next level? Like what's the why that you find for yourself in continuing to do this side hustle and build this community and continue to build it out, from this now pretty large size, bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And the goal is not like when I think about the growth of cocktails and connections, I don't think of it in a numbers way of how do I get to 400, 500, 600. I had to cut back the RSVPs last time down to 500 RSVPs because it would have got to 1,000 if I had let it go, and then 315 people arrived. So, some people try to partner with me. I'm like, no, I just want it to be my group. I don't, if you had a 100-person group, I might still say no. I like it when it's organic to Kharay and people that I've met and 1 degree away from Kharay. I think I could grow it faster. I could probably make more money if I combine with people, but I like to keep that organic apartment feeling, even though we're at a place that costs $5,000 for 3 hours to rent. I still want it to feel like, in terms of the people that are there, that we're 1 degree away from kind of Kharay and kind of, my network that I've been able to build. But I would say that there's 3 pillars of why I do the event. And I would say one, like literally in an altruistic way, like I mentioned before, I really just enjoy, you know, bringing people together. I've always been that way since I was 21, 22. I remember hosting something in college where I had an Eagles Super Bowl party. Like I've always, thought that I've had the ability to kind of assess different people and like different people and take those pieces out of different people that I like and bring them into my world. So for me to be able to do that across as many people as I'm getting to touch in New York, whether it's a partner at Goldman or the janitor, I enjoy like bringing those people together. So that's and watching what happens from those things as well. You'll be surprised, and it doesn't happen that often where people tell me what happened. But if I see somebody like 3 months later, I'm like, hey, how was the event? They're like, oh, by the way, I met with. So it's not like I have a testimony. I should put a testimonial into this thing so people can like kind of write back what's happening. But there's so many different things happening from the event with me as the center of influence. Whether it's people fundraising together for a nonprofit space, whether it's people getting jobs, whether it's people getting married, whether it's people investing together. It's the connections that are made are endless and the possibilities are endless. And I just enjoy from an altruistic way just bringing people together. I like that. But number two, which may be in line with the altruistic way, is by me being that person, the center of influence, I'm in the flow of information. So Dino may say, hey, we're selling our company, or a friend who's in investment banking may say, oh, by the way, we're doing a sell side transaction for a business in this sector. Or someone may say, hey, my family, my mom just passed away. I just came into a certain amount of money. So I'm creating this space in an altruistic way. But then the next pillar of it is, by doing that, you're in the flow of information and you're being helpful to a lot of people, which means that hopefully I'm top of mind when there's a wealth opportunity of $10 million or more. So I'm getting the first look, or at least getting a look at that opportunity. And then the third component that I added a few years ago, when I saw all this wealth in the room, so I did it for two reasons. One, I saw a lot of wealth in the room, and two, I thought it would be again a softer touch with the family in the room and a nonprofit component. So again, it's not just a wealth advisor at Goldman, kind of getting these people together so you can be the center of influence and get the flow of information. We've added a nonprofit component where now it used to just be give whatever you want. You come in, you give whatever you want. Now there's a dedicated number. The last event, it was a $25 standard donation that had to go to an organization that I'm on the board of, Madison Square Boys and Girls Club. But I try to support a different nonprofit each time. And last quarter, we were able to raise $15,000 directly to. I don't take a dollar; it all goes to the Boys and Girls Club. So, or whatever particular nonprofit. So I would say 3 pillars. It's altruistic way. I just really enjoy bringing people together. I love it. I love to see that partner at Goldman talking to a firefighter. Why are they talking? Who knows? But that's great, Or when it's really working, when the M&A attorney talks to the private equity exec and they work on a transaction together. Who created that transaction, or who created that service-oriented transaction? I did. So that's one. 2, center of influence for business, flow of information. That's a big pillar of why I do it. Because it's a lot of energy, but it's been working. And 3 is kind of this nonprofit giving back component. I was a part of Boys and Girls Club growing up. Got a scholarship from another nonprofit, so I understand that putting resources into these nonprofits that are supporting communities where I grew up will be beneficial. I can't always give my time, but if I can, take Dino's 25, Sarah's 25, so and bundle it together and send one check literally the next day to that nonprofit, I know it's making an impact to the students and constituents of those organizations. So.
Well, I like that it's these 3 pillars, and for all of us attending, like I personally consider it a very valuable event. And then you put yourself in the flow of information. Kharay, when there's a wealth opportunity coming out of this podcast, I'm coming to you.
Good.
When I clear that $10 million mark, you're my wealth advisor.
I'll be waiting. Yeah.
Listeners, I must emphasize, please subscribe to the Dino podcast for the bonus episodes. Okay. And then all the more amazing that you're able to take this community that you're building and use it to give back to really good nonprofits. So I do want to give you a lot of props for the impact you're having there, and even just a lot of respect and props for having the vision, and then like finding the time to build this thing and investing some of your own money to build these things. I know that's not easy to do with your day job. Working on Wall Street, working at Goldman Sachs is pretty demanding. And honestly, I have to say, like, you building Cocktails and Connections was a factor that I considered when starting my own little side hustle with this podcast. I was like, wow, Kharay's really done an amazing job, and he's built this little thing. I can find the time on weekends or evenings, even though my day job's demanding as well. Like I can make it work too. So like you've inspired me, actually.
Well, thanks. You're doing a great job too. And I would say, because the event is kind of for work, it kind of meshes well. It makes it easier to know that I'm putting all this energy into this event, but ultimately the event pays dividends on the other side of things. But it is tiring, man. I tell people the blueprint on how to do it. And you can't just take the blueprint and do it. One, people have to like you. Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to host a networking event. Well, if people don't like you, no one's coming to you. What are you offering? And I'm not really offering anything but good people on the other side. So people have to like you. You have to have the resources to do it, and you have to have the energy to kind of want to bring those people together. I mean, literally, I may have 70 different unique text message conversations per day on average. That's not a normal. And I'm so used to it. And it's not a normal life. That's not a normal thing. But, I choose to kind of, 95% of the time, I'm being helpful to somebody. It's not me, people hooking me up. It's me being helpful, connecting the dots. But when that 5% comes back, it's a positive thing for me in the growth of my career. So that's how I think about it. Because it's a networking event can be beneficial and is beneficial to the job, I view them one and the same, but it's tiring because there's never any time off because it's all interrelated in some way. You know what I mean? So it's good and bad. So,
listener, take notes. Honestly, like business is about relationship, life is about relationships, and just listen to the effort here that Kharay is putting. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 70 a day is crazy.
Only 20 of which are your dating life.
I don't know.
I'm just joking.
Maybe 5. No,
parody. Oh, Kharay, that was an awesome walk through this entrepreneurial journey you've been on with Cocktails and Connections, in addition to your day job at Goldman Sachs. We're getting closer to the end of the episode, so we usually like to end on a lighter-hearted note called Bodega Corner. It's a little shout out to my own upbringing in New York, the whole idea of being at the bodega, at the corner store, and just having strong opinions, talking shit, if you will.
Yeah.
So want to ask you, are there any hot takes you want to share? Either a clap it up for something you're very positive on, or an F out of here for something you're not so hot on?
Yeah. Well, I would say hot take, just something that's top of mind over the last month. I ran track in college at a high level. I was a 800 meter and miler at Howard University, team captain, team MVP, all that good stuff. And I stopped running as much as I used to, obviously, 40 to 50 miles a week. But, I mean, that was in college, obviously, 17 years ago. But lately, I've started a run club, which is on the West Side Highway. Dino, if you're ever in town, feel free to join at Charles and the West Side Highway here in West Village. And it's been pretty cool. The first one had like 6 people. Then it dropped down to 2. Then it went up to 7, dropped down to 5. We're expecting 13 tomorrow. But that's something that I'm really high on right now. It's been something every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. I have to get up. I have to consistently. It's kind of holding myself accountable, but it's also, a cool little run club where I get to see friends. And by the way, I didn't expect it to be this way, but there's clients and prospects joining as well now. So it's instead of me offering drinks all the time with cocktails and connections, I'm offering the healthy side of things. And I'll be 40 in August too. So for me, it's definitely something that's top of mind. I don't have any kids yet, like blah, blah, blah. So I got to, so I think it's, again, probably 3 pillars. It's a healthy thing. It's, just a social thing just to get up moving. And then I think the final piece is it's actually helping with business, which I, didn't expect. But, it is, helping people stay up. And it's not just drinking. It's something positive. You know what I mean? So yeah.
It's healthy. All right. Clap it up for the run club.
Yeah. Run group. Yeah.
All right. Any negative hot takes? And F out of here, kind of like Italian accent. F out of here.
Yeah. I don't know. I try to stay pretty positive on life. I mean, I don't want to get into politics and stuff, but that's let's not go there. So
we could keep it positive if you
like. yeah. I think I'll stick to the positive things. I'll stick. That's the newest positive in my life, so I'll stick there.
All right, beautiful. I'll add one positive take as well, just to clap it up. Clap it up for kids, young men, young women from blue collar backgrounds making it in finance, being entrepreneurs. It's something that I love to see, love to hear about, and really resonates with my own journey. So big respect, Kharay, for everything you're doing at Goldman and with Cocktails and Connections.
Well, I appreciate it. The long journey. I always tell people I only opened 2 out of 10 doors so far, even though people think I'm so successful. They're like, "Great, only 2." I'm like, "Yeah, only 2. I'm just getting started, but I appreciate you, having the foresight to bring me on, and happy to join again. But I appreciate what you're doing, man. So this was a great time.
I really appreciate that too. Last parting words of wisdom, Kharay, just to close out. Any short bullet points of advice you would give to people who were like in your circumstances, growing up, like coming out of college and looking to start their careers?
Yeah, I always tell people you have to, when you grow up and you have a lot more resources, you can take a lot more chances. You can fail at multiple businesses, go to the wrong college. I'm going back to this college now. You can do you can make a lot of bad choices with no real fallback, personal fallback, the fallback being your family that's going to support you. But even if you don't have the resources, you got to figure out a way to, to take chances, to take risks. I think about 4 different. I spoke at a nonprofit graduation, last year, with 100 kids in the audience, and I told them about the 3 or 4 pivotal points in my life where I had to take risk, but I told them they were calculated risk. You can't just say I want to be a rapper and go all in on being a rapper and don't have a college degree or anything to fall back on. Or you can't just say, well, I'm going to spend all my money or X amount and do this. Every decision that I made felt like a big risk for me, and it was. But I also had a fallback for which most people didn't see, where I had a fallback that if I didn't make it personally, I could cover it. Whether it was going to Howard, not on track scholarship, but I had to run and get on track scholarship. I had to take out a loan freshman year. Freshman year, I was team MVP, and then I was on track scholarship the rest of the time. Whether it was moving to Chicago, no, my family hadn't left Philadelphia. Whether it was business school, I don't know if you know this, Dino, but to get into business school, I left my job making 100 grand. I took a pay cut down to 35 to go work for the head of the Black Alumni Association at University of Chicago. So I was able. I didn't get it. I didn't have a 730 on my GMAT score. I had a 610. Just telling people out there. But what University of Chicago saw was the connection to Ken Thompson, who was the head of the Black Alumni Association, and they saw a hustle. So they said, you know what? We'll take this guy. I mean, given the connections, given the hustle, like blah blah blah. So, I think about now that pay cut down to 35 was painful for a year, but I knew that if it didn't work out at that startup and I didn't help him build it the way he thought it should be built, I can always go back into commercial banking at RBC or Bank of America, all these different places. I had connections everywhere. So that's a long-winded answer of just saying, you have to be successful, you have to take risk. But when you come from limited resources, they have to be really calculated. And, so get that education, find those relationships where you can take those calculated bets and still, if you fail, you can still come out at least where you were and start over again, not back down to ground zero. So
yeah, that's so true. And that makes it, at least in my mind, like so much more admirable when someone from that background like can be successful. Like it's entrepreneurship is amazing, but it's a lot easier to do if you have a wealthy family where if it doesn't work out, they can still pay your rent.
All right.
I remember out of business school, I was considering, should I go into private equity or should I try some startup that doesn't pay anything?
Yeah.
And I was torn. And my brother, shout out to my brother, told me, he's like, you need to do private equity so your kid can be an entrepreneur, so their kid can be an artist. Like that's just the way the cycle works. Like you can only take calculated risks at this point.
No, I agree. Somebody has to be obviously my parents did a great job, blue collar workers, but now hopefully I can do something different, that I'll build my own, financial services practice where that's an annuity stream trickling down to my kids and my nieces and nephews. So that's what it's all about. And then the last thing I say is you have to believe in yourself. Like, playing sports, especially an individual sport like track, really teaches you, like, you're just by yourself against a clock. There's no, my nieces and nephews can make excuses. The ball bounced the wrong way. My coach didn't play me. My coach don't like me. I enjoy track because, like, there's no, like, literally zero excuses. And it gives you so much self-confidence when you're able to, check the box on that certain time or beat that person that went to Florida A&M or Hampton or University of Penn or Villanova. So it's one of those things that, my parents obviously built a lot of self-confidence in us, saying that we were great and we were kings and we're best and all that. But track actually helped do that too. So I know it's not easy to say have self-confidence in yourself. That's an easy thing to say, but I think that's a big thing too. You gotta know innately that you can, look, I'll be all right. I believe in myself and my abilities to get where I need to go. So those are the two things that I would say.
I think that part's very important as well.
Yeah.
Well, look, Kharay, a lot of respect. You're building something, a career on Wall Street, your own business, and then also just this amazing community. So, like, I think you're having a big impact in the world with just the first two doors that you're opening, and I'm excited to see the subsequent doors. But thank you, Kharay, very much. I think we can leave it there. So thank you for sharing the story on the podcast. It's always good to talk to you, and I look forward to coming to the next Cocktails and Connections events.
All right. Well, thanks, thanks for the time. You're building a great platform as well. And, I think the next one will be in September at Diageo's headquarters down here in Tribeca. So hopefully I'll see you there, and I'll see you before that as well. So.
That's it for this week's episode. Thank you for tuning into the Dino podcast and for being a member of our community. On this show, I try to cover a wide range of subjects with our guests, from culture, arts, and music to history and foreign policy, all the way to business, technology, and current events. We're independent media, and we rely on your support to keep the show going. If you'd like to support the Dino podcast, please consider becoming a member for $5 a month. Your membership will give you access to premium content and exclusive episodes, and it will make you a real true fan, a Dino head. So consider supporting the show, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you for being part of the Dino podcast community.